right. Welcome to the journey tonight. I guess it's kind of tonight or this afternoon. It's kind of both.
Today it's this afternoon.
Today it's this afternoon. I'm just going to copy and paste this so that others can jump on here. So if you give me 1 second, you should be sharing as well. That way others are able to get on here and see it. Okay. I will get better at this, I bet. At some point in the game, I'll actually be,
What fun would that be?
I guess.
It's hard to believe it's been 2 weeks.
It has.
I was sure we had another week yet,
Yeah.
but that's good. We've got things to share. I've got stuff to share that my practical experience
Yeah.
is where I like to live. So,
I'm looking forward to it.
mhm.
It's going to be a good night. So let me just start by saying that the reason we're doing it a bit earlier tonight, but it will be available on our page or the Facebook page at 7 o'clock. But the reason we're doing it a bit early is because yesterday was Mother's Day and my wife had to work. And so she got invited for dinner. So we're kind of had a dinner thing. And so we thought, you know what? Let's just do it a bit earlier. And that way everybody can still, that can get on at 4:30, can get on at 4:30. And if not, you'll be able to pick it up after the fact
Yeah.
at 7, right?
It's out there. Or
So
it will be.
It will be. So let me see. Here we go. So if you want to comment, if you're on, you can comment and we'll check in from now, time to time and also towards the end to answer any questions anybody has. So we're kind of excited. Like I said, you will be able to get the journey on different platforms such as YouTube, obviously Facebook Live, Podomatic, Spotify,
YouTube.
iTunes.
Did you say
I'll-
YouTube?
Yeah,
YouTube? You
yep,
said that?
Yep,
Okay.
that's the
Missed
video.
that, sorry.
But there's audios as well if you want to listen to it in your car or when you're cutting the grass. You know, now that
yeah.
the snow's gone.
You want to hear us?
Yay.
You're cutting the grass.
Or if you're in the U.S. in the South and you never get snow, that's kind of a nice thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what's it on? Amazon as well. Amazon Music. So it's on an iHeartRadio. It's on a bunch of different platforms that you are able to pick this up after the fact and enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
So we got all that going on, as well as if you want to donate to, or I should better say, when you donate, how's that? You can go to our website, which is now visible. It's www.hcm-strafford.org. Now, you'll be able to go there and see a bunch of different things. You can hook up to videos. You can check podcasts. You can read about some of these things are available there. Some quotes by Malcolm Smith, a lot of different things. So there's also a donate button, so you can donate there. So that's available, as well as if you want to go to the YouTube to watch, there's a whole library there of previous programs. You'll be able to see it's www.youtube.com/Grace and Truth J. Brown. So you can also go there. So there you go.
All the preliminaries are done.
All the announcements are over. And here we are once again. So, oh, that's funny.
Somebody knocking at the
It
door.
sounds like it.
What was it?
I don't know.
Oh.
So, let me say that what we want to share tonight we'll develop as we go with some experiences that Sue's had recently. Why don't you share first about what happened to you with Lexi?
Okay. But I wanted to just say what you posted up about the fragrance,
Yes.
about what we're doing is really about our experiences in life and things that bring that fragrance out in us, right? The crushings,
Yeah,
the different events that happen, and what kind of fragrance is coming out from it, right?
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, so my granddaughter was over on the weekend, and she's just 4, and she was looking out the window here, and she says, I really love my dad. Her dad was not here. And I said, really? That's sweet. I said, I love your dad too. And she said, yeah, but he's my dad. And I said, that's okay. I still love your dad too. And she said, do you have a dad? I said, yes, I do. She says, where is he? And then her mom pipes up and says, well, he's in heaven. And she looks at me and goes, oh, well, what happened? And she said that, oh, he was sick. Her mom said he was sick. And she says, yeah, but what happened? And I said, well, he had a bad heart because he had had heart attacks and stuff in his life. That was figured a contributing factor that she might understand that.
And that's how he died.
Yes. And so, yeah, I said he had a bad heart. And what she responded back to me was like somebody taking a ball with a baseball bat and whacked it right into my heart. And she said, so did the good king make him with a bad heart? I was like, oh. I looked at her mom. I said, are you kidding me? Did she just say that? And then I'm scrambling for words going, no, just in, I mean, what are you going to do with a 4-year-old, right? So you kind of just have to let it drop and move on in the conversation. So that was my launching pad into some of this other stuff we're going to talk about.
Yeah. So and that's a really deep question, really, that it's like the Lord, He says he speaks through the mouth of a child, right? A little child will lead them.
Yeah.
And they don't even know what they're saying, really. But there was such a great revelation in that, because that's something you need to ask yourself.
Yeah.
Because as we look around us, we either look outside us and blame somebody, or we think, well, God did it. We blame him.
Yeah.
So it's a great question.
You know what? And she said, did the good king
Because he is a
give
good
him
king.
a bad heart?
A bad
and she
heart.
was looking like trying to question that.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, does it?
No.
So what we want to do is explore that a little bit, and we'll return to that at the very end
Yeah.
to look at it. So in Psalm 23, verse 5, it says, thou shalt prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup is running over. Now, we always think of this, again, looking outward at enemies instead of understanding on a deeper level that God has put a table for us to eat of in the presence of those things that we're controlled by.
Or war against us.
Or war against us. Yes,
Right.
they do war against
They
us.
do. Yes.
And so we want to know, what does that mean? So again, with what Lexi said, we want to take that scripture and then begin to expound on that to look at what does that mean. So there was this story I heard from this wise man who said there were 3 philanthropists.
Philanthropist. It's
Thank
a
you.
tough word. I
That's
think
a
there was,
tough one to
there
say.
was 4. Was there
Oh,
not?
there's 4. That's right. There was 4. Thank you. And these were people with money and abilities. And so they looked at this prison where people were imprisoned. And the first one said, I want to give them fresh water to drink, because they didn't have any water to drink.
No, that was fresh, right?
Not that it was fresh. So they wanted to give them this fresh water, right? So he asked the jailer if he could do that, and he gave him permission. And so he bought all this water because he had the means to do it, and gave them water to drink.
Right.
So then the second one seen this situation and recognized they didn't have any blankets to keep warm at night or clothing to change into when they were cold. So he asked, is it possible that I could donate some things to help the prisoners in the prison? And the guy overseeing the prison said, yeah. And so he bought blankets and clothing to comfort them in this place where
And he
they're.
felt that he has fulfilled his purpose in life.
Yeah.
They all
Felt
feeling
like
that-
they were
yeah.
fulfilling their purpose
Yeah.
in helping people in dire situation,
Right.
imprisoned,
Yes.
right? The third one, seeing they need food to eat because they didn't have much. They were eating scraps.
Well, they were eating beans and
Yeah,
bread or something.
not much.
Yeah, not too much.
So that's what they did. They went out and he bought all kinds of food and brought it to the prison and gave them food to eat.
I think that part of the story goes that he used his land.
Oh,
and-
that's right.
And he grew food specifically to give to the.
Right,
Sorry.
that's right. No,
Sorry for correcting you, but it's usually the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's good, Susie.
he invested his
Yeah.
whole amounts of money to
Grow
give them
food
yeah.
and bring food to help them out.
Yeah.
The fourth one said he found keys to be able to open the prison doors and allow them to go free.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that story is to tell us there's many things, and it's not wrong to help people
And when
to
they're
suffer
struggling-
in comfort.
Mhm.
They suffer in comfort.
Right. We want to help people in their suffering.
Right.
Making them comfortable.
Right. That's kind of what we've been doing in life, right?
Yeah.
But there are those that find the keys to get the people out of prison.
Yeah.
How important is that?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like
Do you want to suffer in comfort, or do you want the keys to
to
get,
get out.
Yeah.
And that's what we believe in. We
That's our
believe
journey now,
That's our
right?
journey,
Yeah.
to find the keys to open the prison doors, to get
Mhm.
out, not just help in the moment. We can see all kinds of things. I was in a ministry many, many years ago that said, find a need and fill it. Well, you're
Mhm.
always going to find a need.
Oh,
But
yeah.
did that mean that that's what the Lord was doing at that time in my life? No. There was no intimacy in that. There was just needs. And there's always needs because there's always suffering.
Right.
Those who need food, those that need clothing, those that need water.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Life, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a whole other thing. And so when we think about life, we're born into a room. It's called the daily awareness. You got to go through birth to get here,
Mm-hmm.
and we're told and believe that we have to die to get out. Think of it as a room.
Right.
There's this room. But in the house itself, there's 999 other rooms.
Mm-hmm.
But we're told that there's one room, you're in that room, and when you die, you get to go to another room,
Mm-hmm.
another one of the rooms.
Yeah.
And yet, it's possible to get out of that room while you're here. In fact, with the right keys, you can get out of the house altogether
Mm-hmm.
and move beyond it.
Yeah.
So that's the goal, is not to get trapped in the prison, mental prisons that we're in and try to find a way to survive, but to
Right.
understand the deeper levels of what God reveals to us, because he's got the keys. He said, I have the keys,
And whosoever will.
and whosoever will,
Yeah.
he'll unlock the doors and he will set you free.
Yeah.
That's why he came. But you got to be willing not just to be comforted or
Mhm.
find fault with what's outside you, but you got to begin to want to look
Mm-hmm.
and move forward.
Yeah.
It's incredible, isn't it?
And it sure is.
So let me start with a couple of quotes by Yeshua that were given to Thomas, which I think are amazing. Yeshua said in the Logan 11, he said, this sky will pass away, and the one above it will also pass away. The dead have no life, and the living have no death. On days when you ate what was dead, You made it alive. When you're in the light, what will you do? When you were one, you created two. But now that you are two, what will you do? Now, it sounds pretty crazy, but this is an incredible revelation. Again, we will go on and bring some understanding as we go. Now, let me read Lagoon, I don't know how you say it, 22, number 22. In the same format, Yeshua says, he looked at some infants being nursed at the breast, and he said to his disciples, these nursing infants are like those who enter the kingdom. The disciples asked him, then shall we become as infants to enter the kingdom? Yeshua answered them, when you make the two into one, when you make the inner like the outer and the high like the low, when you make male and female into a single one, so that the male is not male and the female is not female, when you have eyes in your eyes, then you will enter the kingdom. You'll enter into the kingdom.
Yeah.
So if you think about what he's saying here, Paul the Apostle talked about marriage. He wasn't really talking about marriage. We think he was, and on some level, I've used it to marry people all kinds of times. But it wasn't about marriage. It was about something higher Paul was talking about. The marriage in the book of Revelations, the marriage feast, it's not about marriage. It's about two becoming one, and two shall become one flesh. There's some revelation in the midst of this he wants you to see. So to become, we've talked about this a lot, to become an observer is the beginning of waking up to perceiving the prison. Remember, we talked in the beginning about that story. It's beginning to recognize you're in a prison. You're emotionally bound in your heart, and you're wanting freedom to see through the eyes of Christ. To ascend from darkness to the light, or up through different frequencies to the state of unconditional love. That's the state of God. That's where the Father dwells. That's where Yeshua descended and ascended back to. The marriage of two becoming one is where there's no death, but you enter back into life. This is the journey. This is the keys that we seek to want to understand and to develop.
Yes.
So that we're not just left in that one room suffering in comfort, but that we're pursuing a much higher thing so we can enter back from where we left in Abba, in unconditional love. What is this marriage? Because this is very important. When we made one into two, he said, what will you do? When you made alive that which was dead, why'd you do that? This is the fall. And now we have to come back. At the end, he talks in 22 about bringing this marriage back together to becoming one.
Yeah.
Then you will live. I think these words are wisdom. I think they're great wealth.
Oh, yeah.
If we can pursue what it means and gain the understanding.
And I think, John, that's the key, is the pursuing. It seems like every time we do a podcast and, we pull out all these nuggets of wisdom and ways to journey through our life. For me, something comes along within the next week or two that goes, remember what you talked about, and you're passing this stuff on to people? Well, here you go.
Here you go.
Here's your practice.
Yeah.
Well,
he's going to lead you, right?
Yes.
He's the good shepherd.
So I either want to say, yes, I want that, or I can just pacify myself in my sufferings and be comforted during my suffering.
Right.
Or I can choose to go a little higher, go a little deeper. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't you share some of those thoughts with us?
So here's
tonight?
some of my thoughts. This morning I was thinking about addictions like drugs and alcohol and stuff,
Yeah.
when people are addicted to these things. And thinking about the destruction that it brings in a person's life. And so we tend to do interventions out of love to help them in getting back into life and, being able to do life and look at the things that they lose to help them through that. I mean, they lose family, friends, relationship, they
Yeah.
lose their jobs, they lose respect, and it robs somebody of their life. So I think we can all agree that that is a lot of the fruit of those things.
Mm.
So I started to think about that and the comparison to being addicted
Yeah.
in that world as being addicted to our familiar feelings within, accepting of them like, well, this is just me, and embracing that ride of stress in our lives. It's never any different. Accepting rejection as my portion, and this is just the way that it is.
Mm.
So we've said this words before about breaking the habit of being yourself, which I think is pretty much those things, right?
Yeah.
So what are the feelings that continue to reoccur when you're put under pressure? It's the first thing that I start to look at. Again, I'm speaking about me. I'm sharing
Yeah.
about my story. And I want to be a life changer. Okay. So, but only in changing my life and my reactions, and not just thinking about changing those around me to make me comfortable.
Right.
If I think I can change those around me, it's to make me feel good,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah. That's that comforting again, remember, in your suffering.
That's right. So I'm really responsible for changing myself. And it's really my passion to truly be a life changer. And the Lord had said, no greater love is there than to lay down your life for a friend. Why do I want them to change instead of me? Because I don't want to see them as a mirror that I'm looking into.
Mm.
So it's easier to try to change them or tell them how to live, right? Or I can think, oh, they always make me so mad. They make me feel unworthy. I feel so hurt. And what did I do?
Yeah.
Those are just things that I know that I mull around in my mind. The other wisdom from God says ways to choose to live by, turn the other cheek. So all these things were kind of coming to me in the last couple of days. Someone wants your shirt, give them your coat. So I'm looking at these things through this lens now, right? About my own personal walk. Give without accepting anything in return. What's that mean? What's that look like? So we used to sing a great song in church. I've got a river of life flowing out of me. It makes the lame to walk and the blind to see. Opens the prison doors and lets the captives free. I've got a river of life flowing out of me.
Amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
So if we confess to have God within us, what are we expressing externally to others to see? Or better yet, what are we experiencing internally that only I or you can hear and feel? It's only going on within you. And what habits are replaying in your secret place?
Which is again back to the being addicted, right?
Yes. So did you want to say anything in there just before I jump into this little story?
No, go ahead.
So
That's good.
my experience at work, I'm a personal support worker in a long-term care facility. So I'll just try to make this kind of short, bathing a particular resident, and we're doing the tasks and everything, and I asked a question just in making conversation about a friend of this person, and kind of just basically, how are they doing? Haven't seen them.
Yeah.
That was really all I said. And this person turned and looked at me and said, there's a lot of people around this place that are pretty nosy, and it's really none of their business, and they need to stop asking questions. And I was like, wow. And the weird thing was, I'm thinking, all these things that I just said to you, going through my mind, oh my God, like, what did I do? Right? And
Yep.
right away I want to defend myself, but because I'm the professional here,
Yeah.
I'm buttoning up my lip, and I just looked at the person and I said, what do you mean? And this person just said about, people are just nosy. And I said, well, I'm just making conversation. That was all that I said in my defense. And then everything just went quiet. So continued the bath, blah, blah, blah. Did my thing, was not rude to the person, of course, in any way, and tucked them into bed, and away I went. Well, the rest of that night, those words hit me so personally. And I don't have a deep relationship with this person, but
Right.
it just really went in, and I couldn't shake the feelings that were attacking me and attached to me. And I tend to run from confrontation. Like, that's kind of my weakness.
So all night at work, this is going on in your mind, right?
Oh yeah, it's just not comfortable at all. And I'm thinking, oh, how can I avoid them if they need me? No, I just got to swallow all that stuff.
Because you work there.
I can't do that, right?
Yeah, right.
Excuse me. So, all night long, come home, and it was kind of eating away at me. I passed on our little conversation to the next shift, just so if anything was said, they would be aware. And so this person apparently says to the morning staff that Susan really offended me. And they tell me this when I come on my shift the next day, and I was like, oh, really? That's how he felt. So anyways, they kind of knew the scenario, and they said, oh, no, she would never do that to you. She would probably was just concerned or something, so kind of smoothed it over. Anyways, so I'm going about my job and just trying to be cordial with this person. And so I'm doing my stuff. I'm delivering the supper plate, setting them down, smiling, come back with the desserts. And this person looks up at me and said, Susan. And I turned and I looked at them, and they said, sorry, guys. I'm really forgetting a major part here.
Yeah.
Before all that, dealing with all these feelings, I thought, I started to look internally, go, why am I so triggered with this?
Right.
Like this is just really, really strange how it's hooked on to me. And it took 2 days, mulling this all over in my head. So anyways, I started to decide to apply the things that we've been talking about and lay down my ego. And I needed to recognize these old familiar emotions that I needed to set aside.
So you were aware they were familiar to you. Once you started to, that whole thing began being an observer,
yes.
You were now taking the moment to observe what was going on within you. Because the reality is, not much was really done on the outside.
No.
Two things. One, you were basically, hey, how are you doing? How's your friend? That's it.
Yeah.
And then he reacts seemingly negatively.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And that's it. That's all that's really happened.
Yeah.
But within you,
a
whole
thing.
bunch of things. And now, would it be fair to say that in the presence of your enemies, the Lord prepared a table?
Mm-hmm.
So see, these things that are all surfacing in your heart right now, they're your enemies. You think they're your friends because they're familiar. You've had them your whole life.
Yeah.
And they're like the, what you call them? You call them the addictions.
Yeah.
But now here they are around the table.
Yes.
And the Lord is causing you to be an observer that he has something on the table for you to eat.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah, because I could have just chucked it all down like I would normally.
Yeah.
Let a few days pass and carry on business as usual. But because we're in this journey, it needs to be a life changer.
Well, he can
Got to
walk
start
by.
with me.
Don't we always used to say, you can keep going around the mountain,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
A mirror came up in front of you.
It did.
We say people are mirrors.
Yeah.
So a mirror comes up in front of you, like Lexi spoke. It was the Lord speaking.
Yes.
And now he uses this individual to trigger you.
Yeah.
So the stuff. So then it all comes up in the mirror.
Yeah.
Looking in and going, I think I need a shave today, right?
Yes.
And these things start happening.
Yes.
And now you're at the table with the Lord.
That's right. Yeah.
And he's got the keys, right?
Yes.
To get you out of prison.
Yeah. So again, like I said, I'd lay down my ego, and I had to look at the familiar emotions, lay them to the side. So I started to make a decision to lay down what I perceived as rejection.
Yeah.
And then I realized that I don't know what was also going through this other person's mind, right?
Exactly.
I'm just only about me.
See, this is what's
Defending.
really cool, Sue.
But I didn't do anything. why?
Yeah.
Like I was kind of mortified. It seems kind of silly because
It
it was
isn't,
so
though.
minute, but in me,
It
was
wasn't
a big
minute.
thing. Yeah,
Because it is big things in you.
it is.
And they're enemies. And
Yes.
everybody has these things. It's whether or not we hide from them or we
Yes.
look in the mirror.
Yes.
We become the observer of us.
Yeah.
And so at that moment, you're observing. And the same thing actually is happening to him because you're also a mirror. We're all mirrors.
Right.
And like you said a moment ago, you don't know what's going on in his life that caused him to do that.
No.
But God is such a genius.
Yeah.
Like, we can't even imagine.
Being willing to be made willing, right?
That's a huge one that Reese Howell talked about that, right? The intercessor. And man, he was brought to this moment of going up into the Father and the Son and the Spirit. And it was like he was wrestling and wrestling and wrestling and freaking out. And the devil said to him, "You can't do this," right? And the Holy Spirit said, "That's right. Self can't give up self. But are you willing to be made willing?" That's laying down your pride, the ego. And then the Son will pick you up and carry you over the threshold into the bedchamber.
Yeah.
The intimacy, right? It's a beautiful thing, and yet it's the most painful thing ever because we got to die
Yeah.
to these familiar things that are enemies, which we think are our buddies. In fact, we think it's us,
Yeah.
right? We think it's us, and that's why we defend it to death.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, for sure.
So,
My little journey along this road here, I decided to make a change. I became aware of the emotions. I was dealing with them. I was feeling them. And so I chose, I'm going to turn this around. Even though I was still feeling all this stuff, I thought, I'm going to send this guy love from my heart.
wow.
I didn't walk into his room and go,
No.
I'm sending you love. But from my heart, in my quiet place, I was like, I am just going to send this guy love.
So would be fair to call that moving in the opposite spirit, right?
Yes. So from my heart, though, it wasn't just like, I'm going to send him love
No,
and
I
hope
know.
my feelings follow later. No, I really thought about it. I really genuinely embraced the feelings that I was having. And as I thought, you know what? I don't even know what happened inside him. Whatever. That doesn't matter.
No.
So I genuinely was able to just go, I'm just going to send love to this person from my heart and embrace them and release them and just let it go. It's okay. Everything's okay.
Yeah.
So I did this a few times just, and I go back into work that day and I'm like, okay, doing my stuff. And now I'm picking up where I jumped ahead of myself. I'm choosing to not engage in a long conversation with them just because I wasn't sure where this person was coming from the next day. I was just laying low, doing my expected job tasks, etc., like, serving the meals and everything.
Yeah.
So I decided I'm going to push through the old addicting familiar habit of me. Right? So
And
this
that's
was
tough.
This was putting it into practice that day. You're going to do this, right? Or you might as well shut up.
Yeah.
That's what I felt. You need
Yeah.
to shut up about what you're saying because you do it or you don't.
Yep.
So as I sat the dessert down and I wasn't like really making eye contact, being kind and everything, but just smiled and I'd walk away. So he called me out, Susan. So I had to turn and look at him and he said, I just need to really apologize to you. He said, I feel horrible what I did to you last night. And I was like, oh, I said, it's fine. Don't worry about it. No, he said, it's not fine. He said, I feel absolutely terrible. What did I say to you anyways? And I'm like, in front of this other person, I said, you know what? Let's talk about it in your room later. I said, but really, it's okay. We revisit each other a little bit later on. And he's like, please tell me what I said. And I said, you know what? I just think you really just didn't feel like talking. And I said, that's okay. You don't need to talk. And I said, but I just want you to know I wasn't prying into your life. I was literally just making conversation. So I'm sorry to you too. He says, I just feel awful. I said, I forgive you. I think he needed to hear that because
Yeah,
he
he
wouldn't
did.
stop.
Right.
And then he quietened right down and he just kind of shook his head and sat in his bed. And
Wow.
and you know what? But the release that came to my heart,
Uh-huh.
I wasn't even putting that expectation on him. I just chose to let it go, send him love, and just let it happen. Whatever's going to happen, you know?
Yeah.
So for him, he needed to ask me to forgive him,
Yeah.
which was really crazy. But I think it was because I intended my heart towards him. And then I felt like everything lifted off me,
Yeah.
and I had all this love and compassion for him.
Wow.
No, I didn't ride in on that and try to get all
Right. Right.
whatever, but I was just noting what was going
The
on
freedom that
inside
came.
my heart. Exactly. So, what was I going to say here? So, yes, this is where the violet extracts the fragrance from the foot that trampled upon it. I love that.
Mm.
Right? I'm talking my heart, and
Yeah.
right, this is what came out, even though I felt, trampled upon there in my emotional state, but there was a beautiful fragrance
That came from the crushing. Right?
That's right, came out. Now, this just is very minute, probably to the ears of many people, but it's not about the little circumstance that
No.
happened. It was about what took place inside me.
It's about the prison and getting out, right?
Yeah,
And a fragrance that comes from that.
yeah.
There's a quote by that. How does that go?
By Mark Twain.
Yeah, by Mark Twain, I believe.
Forgiveness is the fragrance that the
The
violet
violet.
sheds on the heel that has crushed it.
Wow. On the heel that has
crushed
crushed it.
Yeah.
That's the fragrance that comes from the violet that got crushed.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
I know. I just love
Like that's a mind blower. And it made me think again all over about that experience I had in 2000, I think in 12 maybe, where remember we were going through a very difficult time, a split in a church. And one morning I was really intoxicated by the glory of God. And it felt a little different than normal because I'd been getting, the Lord's grace was on me during this period of time. So I was pretty intoxicated probably for a bunch of years anyways. And crazy things were happening. And I was in this place where I was used to the being intoxicated, where this presence of God come really thick and I was basically not able to do too much. But this time it was different. And I'm in this and I'm thinking, what's going on? And the Lord speaks to me and he says, John, what do you think of the wine? I said, wow, Lord, it's amazing. But I said, it's quite a bit different than what I'm used to. Like, it seems different. And he said this to me. He says, that's because it's different. This is a special reserve wine I have.
Mm-hmm.
I have my special wine that I keep. He said, and I thought I would allow you to drink some today. I said, wow, Lord. And he said, it's the wine of your crushing.
Yeah, I remember that was powerful.
And I'm like, what? What? Well, I took it on the first level of I'm going through this situation that's really hard right now and it's hurting and and you're trying to walk it out. It's relational with people. It's just a messy thing. And I'm taking it as God's comforting me and I'm being crushed in this time. But I didn't understand that it was actually the heel of someone and God was using it in love because it was bringing the fragrance, like you've said, God has prepared a table in the presence of our enemies. And what was going on was my enemies were rising within my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And God was crushing me to bring them to the surface.
Yeah.
Not purposely crushing me, but it was the situation, taking advantage of the situation, putting the mirrors up, and then me to become an observer. And he was allowing me to drink of that wine.
Yeah.
Which was amazing. I got to tell you, it was amazing. But there was a lot of pain in the making of that wine, I got to tell you.
The crushing.
But now I understand it so much more about, God was giving me an opportunity to eat from the tree of life, to get rid of my enemies,
yeah.
to deal with unforgiveness, to deal with anger, to deal with rejection, to deal with all these things you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's just simply amazing, isn't it?
Yes. So apology, repentance, and a restoring happened, and an understanding of the circumstance for me. And like I said, I truly felt love and compassion come out of my heart for this person, and I felt those old familiar feelings melt away with a victory.
Wow. Yeah, that.
Right? Because I really believed I became more than a conqueror. Not
Yes.
just conquering another thing and another thing, but I actually was able to rise above it and be more than that.
Which is what it means to walk in the Spirit.
Yes. And so I just wanted to say, like, the river of life flowed back to the ocean of oneness with another person.
Yeah. And that's a whole story in itself.
Whole other thing. And like I say, I don't have history with this person, but we're one.
Yes.
Even though there was this little conflict, we're still one. But I was like, I could feel all those things that wanted to keep me separate and just, you know what, just don't engage. No. Right, which I didn't engage, but he came forward as I released.
Yes.
I had no expectations. So I was as shocked as anybody that I got that response back.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow. And I felt the freedom break in my heart just because I chose something.
Because it says, all things were created in Christ, by Christ, for Christ, and through Christ.
Yeah.
So if we called Christ for a moment the river, the ocean.
Right.
It's the ocean of consciousness, that God is all things.
Yes.
And that when one became two in the book of Thomas, it's when we separated. You see, if you look in Genesis, you'll find out that sin is actually separation. But it's not just separation from God. Because now you got to bring in the Epistle of John, where he says, how can you say you love God whom you haven't seen? You hate your brother whom you've seen. You're lying to yourself, man. Because I'm in. Whatever you do to the least of these, you do to me. That's God standing in front of you.
Yeah.
He's not aware of it, that he's one in the ocean. He thinks he's a separate tributary because he's still got sin. Sin isn't the things we do. Those things are the byproduct of separation.
Yeah.
So to remove sin is to remove separation. When I completely become aware of I live and move and have my being in the ocean, in God. And as I do, I also am aware that as these enemies are removed and I eat the food at the table of the Lord,
Yeah.
I begin to remove separation between every human being that's on the planet, who was, who is, and who will be. Because it's one. Like, that's the power of that. The river of life flowed back to the ocean of oneness
Yeah.
with another person. Oh my gosh. That's called the tree of life. When two become one.
Yeah.
It's like one again.
Yeah.
It's where heart and mind are married, and we access once again the complete person. Paul said there's one new man, Yeshua.
Yeah.
The new man, Christ, Yeshua being the head or the mind of the one new man. It doesn't get any better than that as a complete one
Yeah.
being.
Yeah.
As above, so beneath.
Yeah. So it's pretty exciting for me. I thought, wow, that's, coming up to this next podcast tonight, I was like, or this afternoon, I was thinking, oh, what's in my heart now? And then this event literally happened within the last 2 days. And so
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that certainly is lining up with building upon precept upon precept, what we've been talking about in the past weeks, on these things. So
Wanting to know
yeah.
the keys to get out of the prison,
Yeah.
not just be
Yeah.
comforted.
And you know what? I had the key.
You had the key.
I had the key.
Excuse
I
me.
didn't have
Yes.
to go into intercession and, do
Jump up and
war
down.
against these things within me and all this stuff.
And blame them outside you.
Yeah, I had the key to freedom.
Yeah.
and I held the power to release it.
You held
Isn't
the
that
power.
beautiful? It's
I
just like,
know, I
wow,
know.
yay, I won a victory this week.
Woo! Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's a success for me.
Yeah. And let's come back then to this statement as we start to tie this up. The words of wisdom from Miss Lexi, which is Yeshua. May the how does that go again? That the may a little child lead them. So did the good king make him with a bad heart? The answer is no. He didn't make him with a bad heart. Right? It's us going through this thing we talked about, this room called daily life,
Yeah.
to actually escape into the other rooms and then eventually right out of the house,
Yeah.
right? In fullness in him, the ocean once again.
So that when he comes, he will find nothing in us.
Nothing in us. That's why Jesus said it, right? When the prince of this world comes, he has nothing in me. What do you mean? No triggers, man. There's no triggers for him to trigger here. And it's like this story years and years ago the Lord showed me. There was this movie I watched called Billy Jack. And in Billy Jack, he was a guy that had been in Vietnam. And he was a black belt in karate. He was Native, and he was working with the orphanages of Native kids that were in an orphanage with this woman was overseeing. And they lived near a town where people really didn't like Natives too much. And so what happened is they would pick on the kids and stuff. Well, Billy, he only knew one thing, right? If somebody's picking on somebody, he just beats the crap out of them, right? He just reacts.
Yes.
And he's good at it. And so that you see a lot of that stuff going on. And then he's also on this spiritual journey. Sounds like all of us, right? So he's also on this spiritual journey. And like, what's that Christmas Carol with Nebuchadnezzar?
No, you're getting the
Nebuchadnezzar.
Bible mixed up.
Yeah, I know. Ebenezer Scrooge, right?
Nebuchadnezzar.
Nebuchadnezzar. It's kind of like that, where 3 times he goes through this experience. And the Lord really spoke to me in this experience as a young Christian. I wasn't all that quick to get it, no. And it was this, the guide took him, we'll call him an angel, took him to a scene in the spirit. And as he went there was a man preaching in a white robe, kind of like you'd think Jesus doing this, right? And the people were all standing around this hill listening to him, and he's sharing, and the angel says, well, Billy, go up and punch that guy. He said, what? Yeah, go ahead, go hit him. So he goes up and he gives him a karate chop or kick, whichever it was, I can't remember now. And the guy swings back, they hit him. And the angel says, do you know what just happened? He said, no, what? He said, that man, you just in a second brought him down to your level. He's up there sharing like he's got things together. But in a moment's time,
You got brought down.
you brought him, he descended to your frequency or vibration, your level.
Yeah.
So then he goes to another scene, same thing. Guy's talking. He goes up, hit him. The guy turns around. He didn't hit him, but he started calling him everything, swearing at him and all this stuff. And the angel said, well, this guy, he's not much better than the last guy, maybe a hair, but not much. He goes, you see, out of his mouth is coming all kinds of venom, right?
Right.
You pulled him down again. 3rd time it happens. Billy goes up and hits this guy. And the guy turns around with eyes full of compassion. And he says, brother, you must be really hurting. How can I help you?
That's being ascending to a higher place,
Yes.
isn't it?
That's Yeshua when he said, he has nothing in me.
Yeah.
So he didn't descend to where people were. He was there to cause us to ascend where he is in unconditional love.
Yeah.
And that's that picture is he couldn't pull Billy couldn't pull him down because he wasn't affected. He was concerned about Billy's heart, and he must be hurting really bad to do that. Well, there are a lot of hurting people around us. Those people that need water, need food, need clothing.
Yeah.
But the fact is they really need the keys to get out of their situation, out of their prisons, out of the enemies that are in their lives that are familiar,
Right.
to the table of the Lord.
To get them out of that house.
I have prepared a table before you in the presence of your enemies.
Mm-hmm.
What will we do? What will we eat? Do we want to be free, or do we want to stay in what seems familiar and wrestle with the demons that we think are outside of us when all the time it's within us and it's us?
Yeah.
We need to deal with it in order to become like our Father. Do we really want to be like our Father in heaven? If we do, we must become agape, unconditional love. We don't have a choice, or we stay in the sound barrier, the frequency that we're in,
Yeah.
and we don't get out.
Mm-hmm.
So, did the good King make you and I with a bad heart? No. He is in the process of renewing us
Mm-hmm.
and giving us his heart
That's right.
so we can love with his unconditional love. It's just an amazing.
The good King gave us free choice.
That's what free choice is, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That is what free choice is.
Mm-hmm.
We're not slaves.
No.
Only to our own.
And the hardest thing is not defending yourself, right? Like
Yeah.
that's our initial reactions in most things. We
And-
want to defend ourselves. We want to
Doesn't that come out of pain though? That's why we defend pain,
think so. Yeah.
rejection, bitterness, whatever's in there brings you or causes you. Yeah, I must have.
Excuse me again. Oh, yeah.
So
I know it's crazy, but
it
it
is.
was a good week.
Turned out to be a great week, but
To be a good one. Yeah.
it was a little pressured in the middle, right?
Yeah. It was.
Yeah.
But I feel I made a good choice.
Well, how
I know I did because I got freedom. So
did
it
they
was
make
good.
diamonds? Pressure.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, it was exciting.
Yeah.
Glad to share my journey.
There we
Maybe
go.
it'll help somebody
Yeah.
out there somewhere.
So bless you guys. It was really good again this week to be here, and they're right there. And there we go. Till next time.
See you later.
See you later.
Bye.